Okay, my question. What will you do to get government spending under control and eliminate wasteful earmarks from being attached to important legislation? Like I read on the internet this morning, that the war bill, they attached bailing out California and New York. What can you do to stop that?
Yeah, it's a great question. We need fundamental reform of the whole earmark program. You really need both sides to do a unilateral surrender and say, we're not going to do this anymore, and craft a bill that says we can't do it anymore. And all legislation has to go through the proper channels. In the meantime, I'm for making sure that we don't do fully vetted, transparent earmarks. So earmarks that are hidden in appropriation bills where you get the bridges to nowhere and the lobster institutes and all those sorts of things, you know, those things have to be a thing of the past. We don't have the money to do it any longer, and we really shouldn't be doing that. That's just not something that Congress really has the authority. They have the power, they're all power to do it. The authority, I don't believe they have. So when you talk about what do you do to rein in spending, we have to, the worldview that I have comes from the Founding Fathers. You know, I grew up with Ronald Reagan, so I believe that government should be smaller in size and scope. You know, the Constitution has 4 corners to it, and we need to fit what we can and can't do within that document. An example would be the Department of Transportation. We pay, every dollar we pay in a federal gas tax goes down to D.C., and I believe we get 83, 85 cents back on the dollar. We're losing money every time we pay a gas tax for the federal government. And if we got that full dollar back, that'd be millions of extra dollars every year for us to fix our roads and those sorts of things. Right now, the Department of Transportation takes all that federal gas tax money and they divvy it up back to the states under an arcane formula that really hurts Michigan. You know, Michigan right now, we have a very high unemployment rate. And if I were on the Transportation Committee like Mark Schauer was, I'd advocate, hey, we should be made whole dollar for dollar, you know, forever. But at least in the meantime, while we're in this crisis, we should be made whole until Michigan is at the national average of unemployment. If we would devolve a lot of what the Department of Transportation does back to the states, then Michigan would have much more money to take care of its own roads, and I'd rather keep our own money anyway. Maybe the Department of Transportation could still be a regulatory body for, you know, transportation of, you know, some of these big transportation companies and stuff like that, and truck drivers and their qualifications and agricultural products that go across state lines. That should be potentially still run by the Department of Transportation. But as far as money coming down there and then divvying it back up to the states and us not getting our fair share, where Alaska, I think, gets $2 back for every dollar they send down there, that needs to be a thing of the past. Same with our federal parks. We're a payee state on our federal park tax. I'd much more be in favor of devolving a lot of these agencies back to the states so that we keep our own money and you know, so that we can fix our own roads. So there are examples of ways that we can devolve a lot of the functions that the federal government has taken on that the states can do better anyway, and we can save our own money as well. Was there another part of the question?
No, that was just eliminating earmarks.
Oh, right. You know,
and attaching it to legislation.
Yeah, you know, I think some states, maybe Michigan has a single subject for their legislation requirement, and that's something that we should take a look at down in D.C. so that you don't have all these different things glommed onto a bill that, you know, maybe you could support the overall title of the bill, but then you see all these attachments come on that are really, you can't stomach. And so that would be something we should look at as well. I will say, though, that until Congress starts taking responsibility back, their constitutional responsibility for things like declaring war and other things like that, that unfortunately we're going to have some form of earmarks in the meantime. And what I mean by that is, since we didn't declare war in Iraq or Afghanistan, the procurement process of the Pentagon has, you know, gone on as business as usual. And so the body armor that I had in Iraq was only gotten through earmark. The MRAPs, the vehicles that have saved so many lives in Iraq and Afghanistan, are earmarks because Congress has abrogated its responsibility in saying we need to declare war and change the way we procure things so that we can get things into the field faster than we get them now. and we're just not doing our duty down in Congress by that. So unfortunately, to save lives, you have to have an earmark here. And part of your congressional constitutional duty is to raise and train an Army and a Navy, and you have a constitutional responsibility to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the end of our questions. Now we'll give you 5 minutes to plead your case and hit your points and stuff like that. So go ahead.
Sure. The reason I'm running for Congress are my 3 children, Silas, Eleanor, and Blaze. And the tipping point for me wanting to get involved was the whole health care debate. And I was in the hospital with my son Blaze for probably a total of 3 months of the beginning part of his life. And he went through 2 open heart surgeries, 2 brain surgeries, stomach surgery, cardiac arrest, seizures, the whole 9. And as the whole health care debate was going off last summer, Mark Schauer was not having any open town hall meetings. And to me, I thought that that was very arrogant of, a congressman that's being part of a group of D.C. congressmen and women that want to fundamentally change the way we do health care in America and the way that, we think of our health care providers. And so, to me, that is that showed like the arrogance that was going on down in D.C., the raw power that these folks had down there, and they were just running roughshod over the Constitution and utilizing that raw power. I was not appreciative of the way Mark Schauer was voting as far as the stimulus, cap and trade, the omnibus bill, you name it. He's voted party line the whole way. And that doesn't represent the center-right district that we have here in the 7th Congressional District. So for me, thinking through the whole debate that's going on now in the country, thinking through the fact that I live in Michigan, I live in the 7th Congressional District, my children are growing up here, I want them raised with Michigan values, but I really want them to have job opportunities after they graduate high school or college. And right now, so many of our children and grandchildren, after they graduate high school or college, are leaving the state because they can't find job opportunities. And selfishly, I want my children to grow up around me. I want my grandchildren to grow up around me. And if they all leave the state, then that's something I don't want to happen. So if my children have job opportunities, that means everybody's children will have job opportunities. So my #1 goal is to create an environment so that Michigan can be great again, that we can be a top 20 state rather than a bottom 10 state. The attitude of having Michigan be the #1 U-Haul rentals out of the state one way, and Texas being the #1 U-Haul into the state needs to reverse. People around the country need to say, you know what, I'm moving to Michigan because the incentives there are so great for me to have a home, move my family, or start a business. We need to welcome people here. We need to bring our people back. We need to keep the businesses that we have here. And so I'm primarily motivated by my children and what the future holds for them, and the whole fact that the current administration is mortgaging their future and leaving a country that's less prosperous and less free than the one we were given. And when I grew up with Ronald Reagan, I was always taught what the Founding Fathers always hoped that would happen in this country and what we've always had, that every generation will leave the next generation a country that's more prosperous and more free. And I don't believe that Mark Schauer and the current administration is going to do that. And so that's why I'm running fundamentally. I also believe that my resume speaks to real-world experiences that the founders wanted. When you create bills or be co-sponsors on bills, you're not just a person that has been there marking time, you're seeing bills that look good on paper don't work out in the real world. Where I'll craft a bill or be part of a bill and I'll say, you know what, that not only looks good in paper, but it'll work in the real world as well. Because I am a veteran. I've been an active duty Marine. I've been in war. I've lived on 2 border towns, in Yuma, Arizona and San Diego when I was stationed out there. I've been part of family businesses my whole life. I'm on the board of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and me and my brothers and sisters own a couple different restaurants. I'm intimately involved in the healthcare debate because I'm part of it. My son has made me part of it and opened my eyes to a lot of the problems that we have in the healthcare and where we need reform, where we don't need reform. And then, ultimately, when I looked at, where I wanted to run, where I could help the people of the 7th District most, it was with federal issues in the national government and Congress. Let's not also forget that we have an enemy out there that is trying to destroy America. Ronald Reagan saw the Soviet Empire and he called it evil. I've seen radical Islam, and it's evil as well, and they're not going to give up. And we can't pretend that, you know, the people that are flying planes into Detroit trying to blow them up or trying to blow up Times Square are going to quit. You can't treat them like common criminals, they're war criminals. And we need to have people in Congress that understand who the enemy is and what they're all about, and I know that because I confronted that enemy in Iraq. So those are the reasons why I'm running, and that's why I believe I'm most qualified and why I believe I can help the people of the 7th Congressional District the most. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Very good.